It's a long story how nutrition therapy was born, and it has spanned many years. I thought it would be easier for everybody, including myself, to read the story rather than to have you read it. And that way nothing is lost in the translation. However, if you like to read and you don't like to listen to or watch videos, then feel free to. How nutrition therapy was born. All disease processes begin at the cellular level. Sometime in your past, or even in your mother's past, something went wrong at the cellular level, and that was the beginning of this disease process. It is a process. After years of continuing to do the wrong thing, symptoms begin to appear. You may have wondered what you were doing to cause these symptoms, or if it's age or heredity catching up. At some point, the symptoms you have been having get bad enough or numerous enough that you go to see your doctor. If enough of your symptoms line up with a particular disease, you get a diagnosis. There are several options now for your physician, who is educated in pharmaceutical medicine, to be able to prescribe you to alleviate your symptoms. Take a pill to fix an ill. I got that line from the movie Food Matters, documentary movie. I'm going to link here in the article, and it will be at the bottom of the video blog if you would like to go watch that movie. It really says a lot. It's a great movie. So Food Matters, and Food Matters TV is another great source. I'll link that as well. They have a fantastic website with all kinds of fantastic documentary movies about food. Go figure. Pharmaceutical medicine will likely do just what it's supposed to do and suppress the symptoms to a satisfactory level and control your disease. Sometimes it doesn't, and your doctor will have to prescribe a different medicine that may be more effective for you. And then also sometimes the medicines that you're on might cause side effects, and you have to take another medicine to counteract the side effects from the first medicine that you're on. And so it begins, and you begin taking more and more pills. The likelihood is that there are several pharmaceutical options for your ailment, because pharmaceutical medicine is a multi-billion-dollar business. Likely, at no point does your doctor take a look at what went wrong at the cellular level and begin to correct that. This is where True Nutrition and ExistUp Nutrition Therapy come in. Removing the irritants is the first start in healing from the cellular level up. That education is primarily all part of TL2 Reboot. To take it a step further, we really delve into each of those subjects specifically for you. We ask the question, body, what do you require at the cellular level? Now that the toxins are out, what do you require at the cellular level to begin functioning properly again? Much like your car needs gas and oil to run, your cells need specific things to make them function properly or at all. What do all cells need to function properly? Clean food with no man-made toxins added at any stage of growth or production. Clean body products, so that carcinogens and neurotoxins are not absorbed through the skin. If you think about like nitroglycerin patches or the nicotine patch, those are placed on your skin and they're absorbed transdermally. Our skin is a major organ of absorption. We take everything in through our skin, and when you take a substance in through your skin, it doesn't have the benefit of your liver to clean out the toxins. When we eat something, our liver does a fantastic job, as good as it can, at cleaning out the toxins to protect you or your body or your brain, actually. You may want to really consider what's in your body products. Like, what are you putting on your body? Because it is absorbing. So to think that it's not is, or to not understand that it is, really is an important part of regaining health. And another standpoint to look at this from, and this is when it really starts to make sense to a lot of people, is what are you putting on your baby? But you may still want to look to make sure that they're safe. You can read the ingredients, but 90% of the time you can't pronounce them. You can look at the front of the bottle and be like, oh, it says it's all natural. That might be good. But the words all natural don't really mean a lot. So I personally use an app called Think Dirty. And I scan my products into the Think Dirty app, or I actually just type in the name of the product. And it gives a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being it's like water, non-toxic awesomeness, and 10 being it's probably something you don't want to do very often or at all because it's toxic. And it rates the products on their neurotoxicity, their carcinogenity, and also how likely you are to have an allergic reaction to something like this. So some natural products that have essential oils, let's just say, for example, lavender, might get like a 2 or a 3 or a 4 even on the Think Dirty app, and it'll tell you what's causing the little zip in the number. And if it's lavender and you know you're not allergic to lavender, you don't need to worry about that number. But if it's a neurotoxin or a carcinogen and the number is a 9 or a 10, you're probably going to want to avoid it. And it is fascinating when you scan your products, how many products are 9s and 10s that are even organic or all natural or for baby. Absolutely crazy. So I really I encourage you to use that app. So it's called Think Dirty. And I'm going to do a number of posts, vlogs, and many, many more posts coming up, not on products that are bad that I have found on the Think Dirty app, but the products that are good that I have learned from the Think Dirty app and have made all of the products that are supported by ExistUp. We make sure we do our research, and sometimes we let Think Dirty do the research for us, but we have learned, and therefore we know that we can trust these products. So if we're talking about them, use your gut, but the likelihood is you can trust these products as well. And we just buy them on Amazon.com, and they're going to be linked throughout the articles. So I'll link the Think Dirty app at the end of this vlog as well. So back to, what do all cells need to function properly? I'm going to start back at the beginning. Clean food with no man-made toxins added at any stage of growth or production. Clean body products so that carcinogens and neurotoxins are not absorbed through the skin. Clean water and as much clean air as possible. Clean micronutrition, as in vitamins and minerals, taken in the form of whole foods, or at the very least, a whole food multivitamin, because synthetic anything is not something that your body knows what to do with. So if you're taking synthetic vitamins or foods that are fortified with synthetic vitamins, that's not really the way to get good nutrition, and that is wherein the malnutrition problem lies. You also need clean macronutrition. This is the nutrition that most people know about, like fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. So typically when we're dieting in America, we're looking at taking out carbohydrates altogether, and that would be like the Atkins or South Beach or ketogenic and all of these words that you've heard, and you've demonized carbohydrates. There's a lot to that science, and it's not wrong, but it's very misunderstood. With nutrition therapy, we don't cut out any of the macronutrients, and we try to not cut out any of the micronutrients. So you need them all, but it's learning how to get them clean and what do they actually do in your body. Every single cell of your body, for micronutrition, every single cell of your body needs magnesium, and every single cell of your body needs vitamin D in order to function. Every single cell. So if you have a deficiency of either magnesium or vitamin D, every cell of your body will not be able to function properly. And eventually, if there's a deficiency for a long enough period of time, that deficiency or those deficiencies will begin to manifest as symptoms. For example, your thyroid requires magnesium, vitamin D, and iodine, among other things, to function. If there is an iodine deficiency, or magnesium or vitamin D deficiency, but let's just say if there's an iodine deficiency, which most people do have, other detrimental things fit into the receptor sites of the thyroid cells. So every cell of your body has receptor sites on it. So it's like our cells are little sea urchins, and they're waiting for different things to pop onto the receptor sites that are supposed to be there. And if the proper things pop on, then the cell will function. If the proper things don't pop on, sometimes other things can fit into those receptor sites that don't belong there and can become detrimental. So with the thyroid, if iodine isn't present in the receptor sites at the proper level, so if you have an iodine deficiency, those receptor sites are now open. And when you consume through typically water, chlorine or fluoride, or bromine, which is in like bromated flour breads. You've probably seen that word, bromated flour, or unbromated, because that's better. So anyway, bromine, chlorine, and fluoride can fit into those receptor sites of your thyroid gland, and they're not supposed to be there. They're not really great things to keep in your body. Who knows where else your body's storing them? But with proper iodine levels, the iodine will come into those receptor sites and kick out the bad guys. So it'll say, okay, I have the proper amount of iodine now. The chlorine will flush out, the bromine will flush out, and the fluoride will flush out. Fluoride may or may not be good for our teeth, but it is not good for our thyroid. It is not intended to be in our thyroid receptor sites. And if you have proper iodine, it won't stay there. When there's an iodine deficiency and chlorine, fluoride, or bromine are in the receptor sites, it begins to cause thyroid malfunction. At the cellular level, the basic deficiency of iodine can eventually cause toxicity from the other things that fit into those receptor sites. So your malnutrition from iodine hinders thyroid function, and toxicity is allowed to remain in those thyroid receptor sites. Therefore, something just went wrong at the cellular level with your thyroid in 2 ways. Let's keep using your thyroid as an example. Basic malnutrition of this one micronutrient iodine causes the beginning stages of thyroid malfunction. Left unchecked, eventually thyroid malfunction will manifest as symptoms that will eventually lead to a diagnosis. There are many options for diagnosis here, not just hypothyroidism, which is what you might assume. It's certainly an option, but how about starting long before that with a diagnosis of obesity or type 2 diabetes? These diseases are actually the beginning symptoms of thyroid dysfunction, or can be the beginning symptoms of thyroid dysfunction. Did you catch that? Obesity and type 2 diabetes are symptoms of malnutrition. And that doesn't seem to fit with what most people would think about somebody with type 2 diabetes or somebody who's obese. It's malnutrition. Undernourished and overfed is the state of America. ExistUp Nutrition Therapy looks at what all the cells of your body require and how to get those micronutrients into our systems. Basically, if we're suffering from malnutrition and it has manifested as symptoms and turned into a disease process, we need to correct the malnutrition. Easy. It's not a bunch of pills that bring these micronutrients, it's food. But it's not fake, man-made, chemical-laden, nutrient-deficient food that will not bring about health. That's what likely caused the problem in the first place. When you eat real food that grows in clean soil or consume animal protein from animals raised on real food grown in clean soil, your body gets real nutrition with none of the toxins. Unfortunately, we are typically nutrient deficient for years, from years of eating nutrient deficient food. Do not believe the label on foods that have been fortified with vitamins and minerals. Do not believe that it's the same as eating the real food that naturally contains those nutrients. If a food has been fortified, it means that it had no real nutritional value. So they had to throw some vitamins in there and minerals in there to convince you that it's good for you. Cereal is a prime example of this. I'm going to digress and tell you a quick story, classic Deanna. I used to believe that Fruity Pebbles were good for me, and they were freaking delicious, so I ate a lot of them. That was back when I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker who'd suffered from chronic constipation since I was 16 or 17 years old. Bowel movements once a week were normal for me. If I went longer than a week, I would take a laxative. At 23, I was hospitalized with a bowel obstruction, and for those of you who have a medical background, it was an ileus, which is to say the obstruction had no visible cause on radiographic studies. So it wasn't fecal impaction of the large intestine, it was an obstruction in the small intestine with no visible cause. Following colonoscopy and many visits to surgeons and internists at the top of their field, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome and given a pharmaceutical medicine to take for the rest of my life to alleviate the symptoms. Food was never questioned, and although I asked repeatedly, the only sound advice I did get was to increase my fiber intake. I chose Citrusel because I liked the flavor of the orange as it was loaded with sugar. I had a sweet tooth that was unrivaled. I stuck with Citrusel for years, and I didn't take the pharmaceutical medicine after the first week because it made me feel like I was going to poop my pants all morning after taking it, and that was not something I really wanted to deal with while rushing around an x-ray department where I worked at the time. I began having stomach aches that were so bad that I couldn't get out of bed some days, and not because I hadn't pooped. The Citrusel was actually working pretty well to control the symptoms of constipation. The belly pain seemed to be related to overeating, or what I thought at the time was overeating carbohydrates. Easy enough. I stopped eating them, and I lost weight when I did. I thought this was super cool and began living life the Atkins way, but the completely unhealthy version. I maintained my size 2 figure, eating very few carbohydrates, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and exercising. I had only one part of that equation correct: exercise. So my diet controlled my weight, and somehow it controlled my abdominal pain too. Bonus. But how was it that it was controlling my abdominal pain? I didn't learn that for years. This has turned into my history with how I learned experientially about nutrition therapy. When I was in my 30s, I tried my first true elimination diet, removing gluten, dairy, sugar, animal protein, soy, corn, anything artificial, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, I existed on the twigs and berries that you're now afraid I'm going to tell you you have to eat in order to do ExistUp Nutrition Therapy or TL2 Reboot. It was a great elimination diet, although it was harder than strictly necessary to get the answers that I needed. I am gluten intolerant. I got the answer that I should have gotten when I was 23 from all of those brilliant doctors that were taking care of me, who I believed knew best. With this one piece of knowledge, I began to really change my life, and I began to develop TL2 Reboot, which is a much easier 28-day elimination program combined with True Nutrition. TL2 Reboot teaches you the truth and lies so that you can make wise decisions based on the facts for you and for your family. With years of research, experience leading hundreds of my friends, family, clients, and strangers through TL2 Reboot, classes, certifications, more experiences, more success stories, more people curing diseases with food, more people curing diseases that I wouldn't have thought possible at all, but it was happening. People coming off blood pressure meds, skin cancer on somebody's arm just went away and it was already diagnosed. It just like stopped existing. Kidney stones that got better, blood pressure improvements, cholesterol improvements, anxiety improvements, depression improvements, eczema improvements, rosacea improvements, dermatitis improvements, irritable bowel syndrome gone, chronic fatigue syndrome gone, fibromyalgia gone, arthritis better, bursitis gone. I can't even think of how many disease processes just with TL2 Reboot in a 28-day period of time that people are like, I'm not experiencing this anymore. And that's really where nutrition therapy began. I began to really put it together. So that's when my mother called me and told me that my stepfather had been diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, but he was refusing medical treatment until after they spent the summer in Maine with me. So they moved in with me and I had my first nutrition therapy client. If you choose to read more or listen to the success story, and I'm going to repeat that, the success story that I had with my stepfather, Paul, please read my next blog post, which is titled Stage 4 Prostate Cancer. My first nutrition therapy client, my stepdad. Or if not, and you would just like to purchase nutrition therapy or purchase TL2 Reboot, please do that at the links below. The moral of the story with True Nutrition and ExistUp Nutrition Therapy and TL2 Reboot really is eat real food and only real food to live to your fullest potential and exist up.